All right. Wasn't going to do a live today, but have a little bit of time before we're going into Calgary. Going to go visit some friends. I watched an interesting interview sent to me by my mother. If you're watching this, thank you for that. So I thought, you know what? Let's do something a little bit different. We're going to review the interview done by Pierce Morgan and Eric Weinstein. And the title of the video was "We Don't Know How Long We Have Left, Eric Weinstein on Nuclear Threat to Humanity." So I wanted to just show a clip in regards to freedom of speech, in regards to how real is the threat when it comes to total annihilation and all that good stuff, all that fun stuff, the stuff that we look forward to every morning when we wake up, that the world ends. Like, really? Like, this is the best time to live, and yet there are people that want nothing better to do than to cause chaos, destruction, all kinds of stuff. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So I'm going to play a little clip that was on Pierce Morgan show, if you will. What's he call his show anyway? Calls it Pierce Morgan Uncensored. So you can call this Black Swan Uncensored. So we're going to jump into it. Let's see who's on board here today. Hey, Debbie. Welcome. Welcome. All right. So some people might be watching this on their TV, and sometimes they don't always have a chance to chat. I know I don't when I'm watching YouTube from my living room. I don't get a chance to respond. And sometimes what I do is I'll actually have my phone going at the same time. And then that way, when I'm watching TV, I can actually interact because I connected my TV to my phone, I believe. That's what I did. Hey there, underscore pray up. Great title name, I think. I like your logo for your channel. That's pretty cool. Marla Peterson, welcome. Welcome. We'll just wait a couple seconds before a couple more people jump on. I know this is last minute. It's Friday. It's Friday afternoon. I don't know how long we're going to go. We're probably only going to go till midnight. It's 3 o'clock right now. It's 3:43. That's it. We're only going to go for 7 hours. That's it. Kidding. I'm not going that long. I think you guys would be tired of my voice by then. And I wouldn't be able to speak by the end of tonight. If I only would tell you my testimony, I'm sure you'd be in shock. I don't know about that. I think if I told you my testimony, you'd be in shock. You'd be like, oh, wow, yours is worse than mine. Whoa. Christopher, the red heifers are ready for sacrifice. The April 8th total solar eclipse is a Tav cross over America, crosses over 8 cities named Nineveh. Jonah went there to tell them to repent. Yeah, if you doesn't have a spot to chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, Christopher Vase, interesting idea. Jonah went there to tell them to repent. I think you're talking about Nineveh as opposed to America, I think. Unless that whale carried him to North America. It's possible. It's possible off the coast of BC anyway. It's a huge whaling community. It's possible. We're close. So close, brother. So close. Do you ever get excited just thinking about the rapture? Yeah, of course. Of course I do. Like the way I look at it, like my grandson was just over. I'm teaching him he's 8 months old, and I've taught him how to roll off the couch towards me into basically a half twist turn and land on his feet as I catch him. And he's got so much confidence that I'm going to catch him that he just rolls, and I catch him, and then we all cheer and everything like this. And it's amazing that how mega genius my grandson is. Like, I'm sure his IQ has to be like 200. I'm sure it has to be 200. It's got to be. Maybe it's 300, 350. Could be 4, 5. Yeah, 600. Maybe that's pushing it. Could be pushing it. So yeah, it's interesting that, like you're kind of caught betwixt two worlds. As in, I know my grandson's going with us because I have a different theory on the age of accountability than most people. My age, it goes up to 20. You might be saying, well, I thought 4 or 5, 6. Nah, it's 20. I like 20. 20 is a good number. Up to 20. Beyond 20, your brain starts to really formalize. You start getting set in your way, but your brain's still growing, I think, until the age of 20, 21. But I think 20 is a safe number, age of accountability. That takes care of a lot of our children, doesn't it? So let's see here. Hi, family. A Discord like Aaron from Got a Minute. Possibly, I have an IQ of about 40. So I just some of the technical stuff it's a little bit over my pay grade. Hi, family. Alexandria from Ontario, Canada. How you doing? We can literally interact there. Cool. Kind of like, you mean like what we're doing here? So we can interact here too. But I get it. Not everybody on YouTube can interact. But I'm also targeting people that are my age. I'm 54. That like to, on a late Friday afternoon, kick back, relax, watch TV. Maybe on a Saturday, maybe on a Sunday, they just watch a little bit of YouTube binging. That's who I'm catering to. This is why I'm on YouTube. So if that makes sense. Hi, Pam. Hi, Gwen. Mega geniuses. Yeah, for sure. It's chilly in, I think, Colorado. I think that's what you're saying. Like 20 better. I was always like told I was 12 or 13 when you know the difference between right and wrong. Yeah, 20. The reason why I use 20 is because when Israel was leaving Egypt, basically ransacked Egypt, if you will, spoiled Egypt, they went into the promised land, or they were about to go into the promised land. I don't think they fully grasped how close they were of stepping into eternity. They were literally steps from moving into eternity. The only thing they had at that time was the 10 Commandments. There was nothing else. There was no sacrificial lamb. There was nothing. They just had the 10 Commandments. It was so easy. The tabernacle, I don't think, was being assembled just yet. I don't think. But it was like Moses even says in Deuteronomy, he's like, guys, it was easy. And then some of you geniuses that had IQs of more than 40 decided maybe, just maybe, we need some spies to go spy out the land. And then Moses said, I thought it was a great idea, so I let you send 12 spies into the land. It seemed like a good idea to me. They went into the land, looked around, grabbed some grapes that were probably like huge grapes, said that they could carry the grapes on just shoulders of 2 men. Gives you an idea of how big these trees were. And there were giants in the land. Probably some of them were as high as cedar trees. I know that sounds weird, right? Like, we're talking higher than 15 feet. If you don't want to believe 20, 30, 40 feet, if that goes beyond your imagination, just go with 15 feet. Go with 15 feet. Amorites, they were tall as cedar trees. So when these people saw these giants, you have to think, why were these walls built in some of these places like Jericho? I think they were built so that they can keep out the giants. I think they had their own battles on their hand. I don't think there were giants inside Jericho. I think they were trying to battle giants because Canaan was riddled with giants. On the other side of the Jordan, riddled with giants. How do we know this? Well, God gave land to the Edomites because of the brotherly covenant, the Moabites, the Amorites, not the Amorites. I have a brain freeze. Ammonites, not Amorites, Ammonites, which are descendants of Lot. They battled giants, and God gave them a piece of land, a piece of real estate on the other side of the Jordan. So did the Moabites. They had a piece of real estate. So did the Edomites. Esau's descendants had a piece of real estate. Battling giants all over Hebron, Mount Hebron, all that area, which was later allocated to Caleb and company. But it was basically, the area is riddled with giants. So they had their battles, not just with Israel coming in, but their own. But giants were basically ruling the area. So they came back with a report that it was a negative report. And 10 of them said, nope, not a good idea. They're going to eat us. And for sure, they're going to eat our children. So we're not going. Caleb and Joshua fell before them and said, guys, we can do this. And they said, no. They took a vote. They cast lots. They took a vote. And they said, nope, we're going back to Egypt. Why? Because it was better there. We had better food, better meals. Yeah, they treated us a little bit poorly here and there, but it's better to go back to Egypt. So they disobeyed, and the rest is history. But what happened was God said, I'm going to reverse your plan because you said the inhabitants are going to eat your children. Therefore, we should not go in. I'm going to let your children go in. So who are the children? Anyone up to the age of 20. How do we know this? Well, the army was conscripted for anyone over 20. I want to say to age 50, maybe it was higher, but for sure 20 and above was conscripted into the army. And even then, anyone that felt like, we just got married coming out of Egypt, and I really want to just kind of chill for a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous. I get a stomach ache when I go to war. I'm not a big fan of this. Okay, then you guys can stay. And basically everyone else that was a warrior was able to go in with Joshua. So he didn't take everybody. He didn't take all 800,000 men or whatever they had. It was hand-selected warriors that were ready for battle. Mighty men of valor. That's who Joshua took across the Jordan to conquer Jericho. He didn't have hundreds and hundreds of thousands, didn't take all the women, the children, and everything across. He left them with the Levites. The Levites were in charge of taking care of the tabernacle. And anybody that would approach the tabernacle was to be killed. They were bodyguards for the tabernacle. The Levites, the tribe of Levi. So that's why I say age 20 is the age of accountability. Before that, before the age of accountability. That's why I say, I think anybody up to 20, if you're worried about your children, I don't know, you can pray for them. But I personally wouldn't worry about your children if they're like 6 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, and you're like, oh, are they saved? Are they going to get left behind? I would say don't worry about that. They're going to be going with you. Again, that's my humble opinion, because we know later that anyone that was 20 and under made it into the promised land, including Joshua and Caleb. Anybody that was over the age of 20 did not go into the promised land. That tells me anybody that was 18, 19, or 20 went into the promised land. 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. That's an assumption on my part that anybody 20 years old and under went into the promised land, because they were the next generation. Anybody that was over did not make it into the promised land. They dropped like flies in the desert. And the next generation was uncircumcised. All the males were uncircumcised. Why? Because when they were born in the desert, they didn't circumcise them. They didn't practice circumcision on their children. You just have to read the book of Joshua to figure all this stuff out. And then they got circumcised, I want to say Gilead, somewhere around there. They call it the Hill of Foreskins. I'm not going to go into that too much. Big pile. Too much, right? Too much information. It's all in the Bible. Not making this stuff up. It was because they had to get rid of all the reproach, if you will, from Egypt. Don't ask me how I retain this stuff. Don't ask me that question. I don't know. It's up there floating around somewhere. Anyways. All right. Sometimes I go on these little tangents. All right. So a little guy named Noah. That's awesome. Let's see, from Ruru. Hi there, Ruru. Ruru. That's a cool name. Your kid is Noah. Awesome. Laura. Welcome. Anna. Welcome. Charles Hanley. Welcome. I agree. A lot of people are hoping for the rapture. And again, the way that I live my life, and we're going to get started here, is I don't know when my last day is on earth. It could be tomorrow. It could be. I could live for another 50, 60, 70 years, maybe 80. Don't know. But I don't know. This could be my last day. Don't know. So I treat every day like it's my last day to the fullest. Tomorrow we're going to a car show, Lord willing. That should be fun. I'm doing a live stream. You don't want to miss it tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock. We're talking about the resurrection, the gift of the resurrection. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your socks off. You'll never doubt your salvation again after tomorrow morning's video. Again, Lord willing, if the Lord does not come tonight. Also, then afterwards, we're going to a car show. I thought about making a little video clip of me inside a Lamborghini and just sit down and just go, put my phone on the Lamborghini and just make a little video, like kind of like Tom Cody does by the river, but I'll be inside a Lamborghini. I thought that'd be kind of fun to do something like that. Hey, it's my sis. How you doing, sis? How's it going? You're welcome to come on if you want. If you're not too busy for your brother, just give me a thumbs up if you want to jump on. If you're busy, I get it. I just kind of popped this on you. But if you really love me, I think you would come on. I think you would jump on here. But let me just see. She could be busy. She's working. Working hard. But I want to do a little bit of a review. I'm good. We haven't talked today. Weird. You're good. Do you want to come on here live in living color with your bro, with your soul bro? Still working. Okay, cool. I thought so. She works hard. She works harder than anyone I know, other than my wife. My wife works pretty hard too. And my son-in-law works pretty hard. And my daughters and my son. They all work hard. Next Tuesday, my pastor's coming on. Tuesday, 11 o'clock Mountain Central Time. That's going to be fun. My pastor is going to be on live with me. Tuesday night, I'm going to be, again, Lord willing, if he doesn't come by then, I'm going to be on Uptime Community Church. And we're also working on getting Pete Garcia on my channel again and just do a deep dive for a couple of hours. That's the plan. So you don't want to miss that. This is why I say subscribe to this channel, click on that notification bell. I know sometimes I go a few times a day, but I'm trying to string them out a little bit. I'm trying to just string them out, make them a little bit longer. But today, we're not going to go very long. We'll go maybe an hour. We'll go a little bit. We'll go just a little bit, maybe an hour. Because I want to, we're going to drive into town, go visit some friends, hang out, chill, have some good food, have some fun, chit-chatting. We haven't got together for a little while. These are friends we've known for like 30 years. So this is one of the five or six couples that we get together once a year. All 5 couples will actually get together. We'll go out to a restaurant, so it'll be like 10 of us, or we'll go see a movie, or we'll do something. We'll do something once a year together. And we've been doing this for like 25 years. Just once a year, we just get together. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, for sure. Everybody needs a few friends, you know? Everybody needs a few friends. Yeah, I heard that. Chad the Watchman 88 left YouTube. Yeah, like 13 days ago, I think. It's kind of sad. So I'm noticing that. And this is kind of an interesting topic. This is an interesting topic because I notice, and Pete Garcia was talking about this a little bit when I was on with him on his channel, I think. Maybe it was when he paid a visit to me. I can't remember. But he said something interesting, that there are people leaving. They're quitting social media like crazy. They're just quitting. And it's like we're on the 99-yard line and they're just bowing out gracefully. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have an answer for that as to why people are bowing out. And I guess it could happen to any one of us. Like maybe I could wake up tomorrow and just go, yeah, I'm out. I don't know. But because of the community that I've built in here, it kind of feels like a mini Bible study, a mini church, if you will, a mini ministry, something like that. I don't know. Like I'm not a pastor. But I feel like we're growing something nicely in here. Hey, Amy. So I have Amy, my sister, paying a visit, and then I have Amy Moosefeld, who's also going to be on my channel Wednesday night. And so I'll have 2 Amy's on that night. My sister's going to join us. That's going to be fun. So lots of stuff coming down the pipes. And if I could, I would go all day, Monday to Friday, even on the weekend, a couple times. I would do this all day, no problem. But I have this little thing called income that I need to take care of. And I actually watched a teaching the other day about basically when you hang on to some things, it's almost like there's a pipeline coming down from heaven that's full of resources for you, whether that's networking with people, businesses, whatever. And when you hang on to stuff so tight, you actually choke that pipeline from heaven. So what I did is I just went, you know what, Lord? I release all anxiety towards my income. I release everything because I'm literally drawing zero income. But yet there are people that are actually supporting on this channel. They're sending donations and stuff, which is quite amazing. So thank you for that. I just believe that God is going to provide. I honestly believe that, whether it's here in the channel, whether it's me doing a video shoot for some company, maybe I've been networking with some friends that have their own video production companies, all this kind of stuff, because I love doing interviews. I love doing stuff like this, being a guest on other people's channels, all this kind of stuff. So I don't know what's around the corner. I just know the answer isn't just blanketing the whole world with resumes so that you can get paid $10 an hour or whatever it is, minimum wage or whatever. So I believe God has something for me. I just don't know what it is yet. And also, my son-in-law is going to be coming on this channel. He's agreed. We signed a contract. I'm kidding. He's coming on here. There's no promises as to when, but he did agree. He made a verbal agreement that he would be willing to come on my channel. And I think Friday coming up. Friday, maybe 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday coming up. So a week from today, my son-in-law, Lord willing, if we're still here, is going to come on my show. And I'm trying to get my kids on here too. Love to have my son on here. He has a few friends, a few buddies. I would love to have a round table with my son and his buddies. That'd be fun, just to kind of sit around the table, whether it's on everybody's individual laptops, don't know. So pray for us. That'd be fun. I'd like to have my other daughter's boyfriend as well on. I think if he came to the Lord, he would be like a Paul. I'm telling you, he's not a Christian just yet. My daughters are a Christian. My son's a Christian. But my potential future son-in-law is not a Christian just yet. Not yet, but we're so close. We've had great talks. My sister Amy has witnessed to him. And he let her talk. And the next day he was like, man, that was interesting what you said, Amy. Very interesting. So, and then I think a couple weeks later, he was in church when he said he would never show up in church. So I think God has huge plans for this guy. I'm telling you, if he was on my channel would explode because of him. I'm telling you, he is black and white. He calls it like it is. Christian or non-Christian, he calls it like it is. And I'd love to have him on my channel. That would be good. That'd be awesome. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. Yeah, keep praying. Keep praying for our family, and then even our family, within this chat group where we all want our kids to be saved. We do. We want them all to be saved. And I think what happens is if we push them, they go in the other direction. That's how we are. We don't like to be pushed. We just go the other way. Somebody says, hey, go to church. We go, no, don't want to. It's the same thing if you walk into Walgreens and you need a giant box of Count Chocula or Frankenberry or Boo Berry or something like that. And as soon as you walk into Walgreens, somebody walks up to you and says, can I help you? What's the first thing you say? It's no, I don't need your help. Then when they walk away, you're like, come back here. I need my Boo Berry. I need my Frankenberry. Maybe I'll have my brother Dustin, if you're there, I need you on the show. That'd be great to have a talk with my brother on this show. He can go pretty deep as well. That'd be fun. Wouldn't you like to see my whole family on a round table, have my mom there as well? She's always giving me ideas for my YouTube channel, by the way. It's always giving me ideas. We have great talks. It's like, what about this? This would be great content. Can you say this? Can you do this? Can you do that? So she's like my number one fan. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, you'd be on fire for the Lord. Yep, for sure. Need a big table. Yep. Food line behind Walgreens. They're cheaper. Food line. Yeah, I'm just trying to inject a little bit of humor out there on a Friday afternoon. All right, let's go into. Let's go. Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of watchmen are facing spiritual warfare, man. And then if you fall, some people are like, oh man, I messed up my testimony. And it's hard for them to pick themselves up because they have books they have a huge media following and all this stuff, and then they're like, I can't. I'm just going to bow out. I'm not saying that's what happened to Watchmen on the Wall. I reached out to him. I said, bro, come on my channel just for a quick visit. Let's just have coffee or whatever. Let's just talk. Don't give up the fight. We're so close. We're on the 99-yard line. We're so close. So, yeah. No, Mike who? Mike Bickle? Who are you talking about, Mike? There's a few Mikes through the world. Yeah. If you're talking about his testimony, yeah. Centurion, or are you talking about like just recently? Like minutes ago or something, because I don't know. Centurions of the faith, he needs prayers. Are you talking like just recently? No, the warfare. Okay. No, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, other than I think what he shared on our channel when he was on last week. But yeah, everybody's going through stuff. I had a few cancellations yesterday. It was kind of weird. Just seemed like I was going to have a couple of guests from Uptime Community Channel, and then somehow something got mixed up. I don't know what happened. Wasn't able to work out, but I did get an invite to come on their show on Tuesday, so that's cool. So yeah, just you just never know. Hey Stella, how you doing? You just never know what happens from day to day. That's why we're not promised tomorrow. So the Rapture is cool. I like the idea that he can come anytime, but we're also not promised tomorrow. So it's a fine line. So let's just go into this quick little I'm just going to play 5 minutes from this Pierce Morgan segment here, and then we'll come back. This again is with Pierce Morgan, and he was interviewing Eric Weinstein on, we don't know how long we have left in regards to the nuclear threat to humanity. So we're just going to play real quick here.
It's everywhere. I was a terrible student in high school. So to me, it's quite funny. I mean, I don't know what to say. It speaks to the triumph of will and the power of dyslexia.
The intellectual dark web, as it's called. I've interviewed many people that the mainstream media pumps out to the public. They want to challenge, what I would call groupthink. They want to challenge tribalism, particularly fueled by social media. They just want to be, I guess, annoyingly curious and combative about stuff that we're told collectively we have to believe.
I think it's a lot more than that. I mean, I never explained who was in it, nor what it meant. So people try to wrap ideas around it. And one of the reasons that it gained currency was that no one had a description for the fact that many smart people were not going along with the sort of intellectual hegemony of the mainstream, which should represent a huge diversity of viewpoints, but in fact, that's only honored in the breach. I think that one of the things that is not frequently thought about in terms of that project was the importance of civility. It's incredibly difficult to tease out our differences when we're yelling at each other, calling names, and in point of fact, I believe that we've lost the ability to have good fights. Our fights are terrible.
I totally agree.
We can't get good people to sit down, because without intellectual Queensberry rules, all you get is eye gouging. And while there's a segment of the internet that's always looking, for somebody to rip off an arm or lose a digit, most of us want to live to see another day and continue to develop our points and even concede when the other person has a better one.
So that's an interesting point there that Eric makes, and that is the idea that we have to figure out a way to, whether it's having debates or having communications with other people that maybe don't always disagree with us, But the answer isn't always to just cancel people just because they have disagreement on whatever the industry is, whatever happened a couple of years ago. I have my thoughts. I was on the front lines and I was looking around a little bit confused as to what's going on. Like, am I going to die? And then you realize after a year that you're okay and stuff. And yeah, people got sick and all kinds of stuff. But it always felt like we were being snowed a little bit in some levels. We weren't told the whole story, and as soon as you start asking questions, you get shut down, you get canceled, and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's what Eric was talking about with this dark intellectual web, where basically there's a few people that are speaking out. You got Jordan Peterson. They're trying hard to cancel him, trying hard to take his psychology papers away from him. You have Ben Shapiro being attacked like constantly. Anybody that goes against the grain. And I feel like in some ways I'm one of those guys. I think outside the box. And I get a lot of ridicule. I get a lot of ridicule for that, where people are like, hey, this is what everybody has taught for years. You need to fall in line because what you're teaching is hearsay, and you're satanic. You're a satanic priest. You're cultic in nature. You're a blasphemer. I've been called every name on this channel. I've never experienced that before. It's crazy. So if you're going to have an intellectual debate, you have to learn how to communicate with each other. I'm actually listening to a fantastic book called Super Connectors, and I'm going to give you the name of that book. Actually, let me just let me see if I can find it here. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. Right here. I think it's right here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's why I like it. I also read The Power of Habit. So let me come back. Let me show you the book. Boom. 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 So this book here I'm listening to right now, it's called The Super Communicators. And if you sign up for Amazon, I'm not affiliated with them. I guess I could set up an affiliation, but I'm not right now. Don't have anything set up with Audible. But I have right now I have over 200 books on my phone, on my account. And this is one of the books that I just purchased. You get a free book every month, which is kind of cool. But I also read The Power of Habit. It's a fantastic book. But Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. Great book. I'm telling you. Fantastic book. Love it. So the idea behind this book is, how can you become a super communicator? And this is what I struggle with. I struggle with my communications. I'm getting better, but I still if you know how I was a couple years ago, man, oh man, I got so nervous all the time speaking in front of people. I just get nervous all the time. It's crazy how nervous I would get. And now it feels almost like second nature. And you have to use humor every once in a while to break the ice and to help people get on the same wavelength as you. What do I mean by that? If I tell you a joke, I'm trying to think who came up with this joke yesterday. I think it was Stella. Why don't red heifers have shoes? Because they lack toes. Get it? They lack toes. Lactose. Get it? That's why red heifers don't have shoes. They're lactose. Kind of like me. I'm lactose intolerant. They lactose. Lactose. Get it? Anyways, if I was sitting across having coffee with you and I told you that joke and you started to laugh and kind of snicker, like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. And then I kind of snicker and it's kind of silly. You're on the same wavelength. But if I told you it and you're like this, there's a disconnect. So this is why sometimes when I have a guest on my channel or I have coffee with someone to think about whether or not I'm going to have them as a guest, I will throw jokes across the table to see how their humor level is. And if they're like a robot, can we just be serious? I'm like, yeah, I may not have you as a guest. I may not. Or I may not invite you back. Why? Because you don't have the ability to adapt to the audience. So if there's an audience, if people are listening here and they're happy, sad, whatever, you kind of have to be able to engage with them and feel what they're feeling. It's the same thing if somebody says something that they think is not so funny, and then you grab your gut and you're like, just snot is coming out of your nose, you're laughing so hard, and they just finished saying that their car broke down and they had to get their truck towed and it cost them like $2,000, and you're like slapping the table, just full on belly laughing, like this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. And the guy's like, I'm not sure if I can pay my mortgage, and you're just laughing. There's a disconnect there. You're not connecting. You're not connecting on that. And when I was watching Pierce Morgan and Eric, Pierce could say a joke, and every once in a while you'll notice Eric can laugh, which tells me they're a little bit on the same wavelength. If Eric couldn't laugh, or if Pierce got too serious, they're not going to get the best interview. They have to be on the same wavelength to feel a connection, to feel safe, and then they can open up and share more. So hopefully this makes sense. All right, so back to Pam. 144,000 will be dispersed that way. Red heifers also lack white hair. Yes, for sure. I'm laughing. See, what does that make you feel if I do that? It makes you feel like, oh, man. Or if I went, oh, that's actually a pretty good one, I'm going to write that down. Then that makes you feel better, right? So believe me, I've tossed some jokes out and they bombed. They bounced off the road. I'm telling you. What else we got here? What if they don't think you're funny? Well, that tells you that you're not on the same wavelength. And I'm not talking about telling your corny jokes to your kids or your wife or your significant other because they roll their eyes and stuff. But there are times my wife and I, or my wife will say something and I'll react and I'll say something back, and we will be full on belly laughing that I almost have to pull over to the side of the road because I can't see. I have so many tears in my eyes from holding my gut at something funny that my wife said, or vice versa. And we'll just cry and laugh so hard, and she'll be holding her belly going, stop, I can't anymore. And that's happened. That tells you that you have a connection. I've had that happen with my brother-in-laws where they'll be like, time out. Don't say anything more because we're dying. And we'll all be laughing, snot, everything all over. I used to be able to make my wife's father-in-law just laugh so hard that he couldn't even breathe. And he's not with us anymore. But that's like, if you can do that every once in a while, that tells you that you're connecting. If you can do that, if you can inject humor no matter where it is, obviously at the right time. You don't do that at a funeral. Although there's one time where I burst out laughing at a funeral, and I was pretty embarrassed. It was because, okay, this is embarrassing, okay? I'm only telling it to you guys, not to anyone else. Went to a funeral. I'm not going to say who it was for. It wasn't for my dad. But I didn't have a pair of dress shoes. So I went to Woolworths or some store out in the middle of nowhere in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And I bought the cheapest pair of black shoes that I can get. I could barely fit my feet into them, but that was the only size that they had. So when I showed up at the funeral, one of my cousins was like getting nauseous. He was starting to go, and we're like, what's going on? He's like, something smells like mothballs. And it was my shoes because they were cheap. They smelled like cheap perfume or mothballs or something that was so strong. It was hitting the entire bench, and people are like, oh, what is that? What is that putrid smell? And it was from my shoes. And when we got out of the funeral, I took my shoes and I shoved them under my brother-in-law's chair as he was driving out of town. I didn't tell him. I think he got about 1 kilometer, 1 mile out of town and pulled over and was looking around and found them and threw them out the window, and then texted me and said, nice try. They were so bad. It's horrible. Shoes stunk. All right, let's go back to Pierce here. Let's see what he's got to say. But yeah, I encourage getting the book Super Communicators. Strongly encouraged. So let's just go back.
So the dirty little secret of the intellectual dark web is that even though we were across the political spectrum, we were pretty darn good to each other for a long time. And I think that that's the key to getting great fights.
What I've noticed is that Ben Shapiro still has a pinned tweet, I think, facts don't care about your feelings. And I've definitely noticed in debates that people go ad hominem very quickly and very abusively, normally to mask the fact that their actual argument is devoid of fact.
Well, when you don't have a point, it's an excellent tactic.
Where are we in the world right now, Eric? I mean, you've written and spoken so much about the state of the world, but I always say to people that if you actually look at it statistically, this is the best time to ever be alive. We're living longer, we're living healthier, there's less child poverty, there are fewer wars, and so on and so on. By every conceivable metric, this is arguably the best time to ever be alive. And yet so many people seem so angst-ridden. Young people have an epidemic of anxiety. A lot of people having real problems just dealing with life, when in fact, compared to all their ancestors, they've got it good. Why?
Well, see, you've got to stop drinking with Steven Pinker, I think.
It was actually him that said that. You're right.
Yeah. Well, this is a terrible idea that was spread by Steven Pinker. And what it is, to borrow from my physics and math background, is you can't understand the conservation of energy if you don't have terms for both potential and kinetic energy. So if you think about what you're talking about the cessation of all kinds of, in some sense, human kinetic energy from the early part of the 20th century with all of the, two terrible wars, a horrible pandemic, etc. We don't see that much in the world. Only Mao's Great Leap Forward, I think, rises to that level of atrocity. So that has been a huge improvement. The problem is why that is the case, which is largely because in 1952-53, over 6 months, we acquired the secrets to both the atom and the cell. So with the first hydrogen bomb named Ivy Mike in the Pacific, and Watson and Crick's elucidation of the double helix structure for nucleic acid,
All right, so he's starting to get a little bit above my pay grade, but it's interesting that once the nuclear bomb was invented, all of a sudden that became a threat, that suddenly you can wipe out all of humanity in one foul swoop, whereas you didn't have that before. You didn't have that technology to be able to do that on a grand scale. And now with artificial intelligence, it seems like we're more worried about artificial intelligence taking over the world than we are with the capabilities that we have to actually make the entire world extinct, if that makes sense. Because we're still a little ways away with artificial intelligence becoming sentient, if you believe in that thing. We're a ways away. I've had arguments with ChatGPT on my phone because it's basically a glorified Google. And I would be like, okay, I talk about Romans and I'd say, okay, rewrite Romans from this perspective or whatever. And it was grade 1 level. Why? Because it's gathering information from resources from all over the world and summarizing it based on the question or the query that I asked. And it does not have the ability to go deep. It's just like a glorified processor that's fast and basically gives you a response based on whatever you ask, almost mirroring what you're asking and then putting some resources from around the world under one thing. So it doesn't have the ability to think or anything close to that. It's not sentient. It's not anything like that. In fact, right now, I believe ChatGPT's information only goes up to 2022. So if you ask it about anything about, give a little summary on Hamas launching rockets to Israel on October 7th, it'll say, sorry, my data is not that current, not that up to date. So it's useless. It's useless. It's stupid, right? When you think it can access all the information today, it can't. It's 2 years ago. Now, it might update itself or somebody might update everything, the parameters and all that stuff. And yeah, it could look like it's getting smarter and smarter, but I think in some ways that's a little bit of a false entity, if you will, where we're giving it too much power, too much authority, when really it's just like a program. That's all it is right now. That's it. And we're creating fiction out of it. And we're scaring people with all that kind of stuff. It's not there yet. And I believe that this is a bit of a rouse, if you will, for the Nephilim to enter back into the world under the guise of being a robot, being a machine, being a sentient, all this kind of stuff. And we would just buy into it. And we'd look at these giant robots that are 10, 15, 20 feet tall. And then we're like, oh, wow, they look so real. Look at the skin. Look at the eyes. Wow. And they'd be like, yeah, that's the technology that we have. We can actually make skin look really real. And we can make these robots real, and they're plugged into the internet. That's why they're so smart. Meanwhile, it's actually Nephilim. And we would be snowed. We'd be like, we would just buy into it. My humble opinion. So yeah, so let's go to the comments here. Let's go here. I have to get new good clothes. Yes, for sure. Always buy good clothes. Tale of Two Cities, best of times. It was the worst of times. Yeah, I feel like we're in good times right now in North America. I get it. There's stuff going on all over the place, but really, when you think about it, you guys can chill right now on YouTube, and there's no repercussions right now today. So that is kind of interesting in itself when you think about it. Yeah, and again, I can only speak from the perspective of the North Americas, from the United States and Canada. You have total freedom right now to go to church whenever you want. We can go downtown tomorrow to a car show. We don't have to wear any equipment, any protective equipment over our face or anything like that. So we are in a time frame where it is pretty good, and it's not always like that for other nations. And there are nations where Christians have to go underground and stuff, but that's because of the government. And the government can turn on us here in Canada anytime. In the States, it's a little bit different because of their constitution. The fact that they have the right to bear arms, that changes things a little bit. Feels like in some ways we don't have rights like that. Like if we have a license, a gun license, all this stuff, you have to actually have your gun locked up, stored in a vault, in a safe, all this kind of stuff, you have to have your bullets stored somewhere else in the States. I think in Seattle, I could be wrong, but I think in Seattle, you have the right to hide. I forget what that's called, where you can basically hide your gun in your jacket and you're okay. The right to conceal, which I find weird as a Canadian. I would rather see you walking down the street with a holster than not knowing, but that's just me. So in Canada, we're not allowed to walk around with our guns unless you're hunting or unless you are a private investigator or law enforcement or whatever. You can't just walk around with a gun on you, where in the States, depending what state you live in, you can. So that's a little bit different. I think what would happen with the States versus a government coming into people's homes, like Canada could easily do that. But in the States, I think a civil war would be more likely. Democrats versus the Republicans. I could see that being more realistic, that there would be a civil war, especially with this election coming up in November. If Joe Biden calls a martial law and says we're under some alien attack, there's a missile coming from space, it's an EMP rocket or something like that. So we're declaring martial law just before the day of the election. I think there'd be a civil war that day. I think it would start a civil war because there's people that want Trump into office. And again, this is me. I like the guy and everything. I know he says stuff crazy on Twitter and all this stuff. But I feel like if he gets in, he's not getting out. He's not getting out. I just feel that. I feel like he'll change things. You kind of mess with him one time. This guy is smart. He'll figure things out. If Joe Biden does do martial law, I think Trump could do something like that, and you'll never vote him out. You'll never be able to vote him out, even though the maximum amount is 8 years. So that's my humble opinion as a Canadian. I think that's what Americans are up against. Potential civil war that could break out in the States. It's happened once before. It can happen again. A triggering mechanism for that could be the election, something like that, or some event that we can't see. This is why I have a channel called the Black Swan Revelations. It's because Black Swan events, you can't figure them out. You can't spot them. It's impossible to spot them. You can't spot a Black Swan event. If you do, it's not a Black Swan event. Why? Because you spotted it. So the 3 criteria for a Black Swan event is it's highly improbable. If it's highly improbable, that means chances are it's likely not going to happen, but you have to put it on the table as it could happen. And I think the Rapture is the greatest Black Swan event ever that's ever going to happen. Why? Because it's highly improbable. It's highly unpredictable. Once we're out of here, once the Antichrist shows up, he's going to have an answer for the rapture. You can start the clock for Jacob's trouble. You got 7 years before the Lord returns with his army and will be behind him. You don't want to be facing him at the end of 7 years, like my brother John Fortier says, from John Fortier, the watchdog. He says you don't want to be in front of him at the end of Jacob's trouble. You want to be behind him on a horse. Why? Because you're part of his army then. If you're in front of him, he's coming against you. So you don't want to be on that side of him. It's like in a tunnel, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, oh man, freedom. No, that's a train coming. That's the wrong direction. That train is coming. Yeah, I really like John. My French brother. He's very good. He's very good. All right, let's go back to this interview for a little bit, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll give some final thoughts here. Some final thoughts.
We became godlike in terms of our power. And as a result, we acquired for the first time, the ability to end the human project. And I think it's the loss of an indefinite human future that has to be restored, and no one can figure out how to do it. So we sit here effectively with a ticking time bomb. We don't know how long we have, and things are very pleasant. I mean, you can sit in a coffee shop and have a perfectly good life, but you never know when the end is coming. Whereas in a previous era, you didn't know how often you were going to be conscripted into a war. But on the other hand, there was no chance of humans extinguishing themselves. So I think you really have to broaden that concept. And I would agree with you in terms of the realized terror that has engulfed the world. In fact, most of it is potential terror.
Did you watch Oppenheimer, the movie?
Sure.
What did you think of it?
It's very tough. I don't think people remember that we have this power and that it was unleashed by science, and in particular, it was unleashed by effectively my former colleagues. So that, when you see a cameo appearance by Richard Feynman, let's say, or at least, someone portraying him, you have to recognize that these are the people who unleashed the doomsday scenario. And for me, because we ceased exploding atmospheric nuclear weapons in 1962, I believe, we've really grown far too, I don't know how to say it, we're too unconcerned with the danger in which we live. And for me, it was an attempt to reawaken our self-knowledge and to remind ourselves how important science is, how currently we say that scientists are feeble, they don't live in the real world. I promise you, you'll be living in their world for the rest of time. This is very much the real world, and it was painful in part, but it was a very intriguing film.
I mean, when Vladimir Putin rattles his nuclear saber, which he does regularly as a form of trying to intimidate the West in particular, do you think he means it? I mean, do you think anyone like Putin, who has 6,000 nuclear weapons at his disposal, is ever, I don't know whether the stupid isn't the right word, but is ever going to be in a position where he would want to start a war that would obliterate everything?
You can ask the same of us.
Yeah.
But I'm quite serious.
I'll pause that for a second. It's interesting that Eric said that you could say the same thing for America, because both have the same capability, which is very interesting. Hey, Cheryl. Angus is on. Marvax 2 is on. Scotty, of course. So it's interesting that he said, again, this is Eric Weinstein, that it's interesting that he said that, we can do the same thing like America. America has nukes. They can walk in anywhere in the world and just level it. They could just wipe it out instantly. We couldn't say that like 100 years ago, 200 years ago. You couldn't say that. But now you have to take that seriously. But I don't think Putin is crazy enough to wipe out the entire world, because they have their own issues to deal with. It's like China has their own things to deal with. America and Canada, sometimes we put our nose in things sometimes that doesn't always make sense because we don't have all the answers yet. Canada, we doled out I think $650, $700 million to Ukraine with no, as far as I know, no receipts, no reason as to, no return, if you will. Like, they're not giving us anything back in return. And I'm wondering who's actually paying for that. It kind of feels like it's on our back now. And yet there are people in Canada going hungry and looking for work, looking for jobs, but we can just dole out. Somebody shows up at our parliament, makes a speech for an hour, and we give them money, and then you find out later that Ukraine is actually one of the leading researchers, if you will, of drone technology. They're very good at drones. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, if you're giving money to that, don't you think that their drones technology is going to get a little bit better? This is right from President Zelensky. He wants to create a U-24 organization. What does that mean? He wants to dissolve NATO. You might be thinking, oh, he's too weak to do that. Is he, though? Is he really? President Zelensky has been on record to say that he feels right now the resources are lacking in the world, that if a rogue country were to step out of line, there's not enough resources to get troops into that country within 24 hours. It would take a long time. So he wants to create an organization, call it U-24, with Ukraine being the headquarters. So don't think that Ukraine cannot come out of everything on top of the world with Zelensky heading the charge. When he came into parliament, when he came into power, he dissolved the parliament. He created a snap election. He had a scepter in his hand and he raised it and he says, I am now dissolving this parliament. He is also the 6th president the 6th president of Ukraine, which is kind of interesting in itself. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. I'm just saying these are his ambitions, is to create a united 24, which means if there's a country that needs food, this organization will be able to provide food in less than 24 hours. That's what he wants to build. That's not a bad thing. If a country goes out of control, you can send troops within 24 hours and you can destroy that country inside 24 hours. That's a little bit concerning. And this is him saying this, not me making this stuff up. It's Zelensky. Right now, they're under martial law from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 p.m. Until when? Every 90 days, he has to renew it. Martial law. Their election is coming up at the end of this month. If there's martial law, there's no election in Ukraine. He dissolved 2 political parties that were leaning a little bit more towards Russia. I'm not telling you my stance. I'm just telling you the facts of what's going on there. If there's martial law, there's no election. If there's a martial law in the United States for this November, there won't be an election for you guys. And I feel somebody's going to try and take the ball in their own hands and force the issue. You don't think if Trump doesn't get in because, let's just say, people voted him in or they're winning, and all of a sudden a martial law comes in, you don't think there's going to be some kind of repercussions for that in the States where everybody has the right to bear arms? Man, I think in November, that's the time to book a vacation somewhere else. I don't know if you want to be there. That's just my humble opinion. Come to Canada. We're no better. We're no better. I'm just saying. All right. So what are we? Let's go back. Let's go back to the comments here. A lot of people in Ukraine is on purpose. Yeah, there's something going on there. We're not being told everything. That's my whole point. We're not told everything. This is a dumb question. Okay, here it is. But is it a sin to use dice for random number generator in case the internet goes? What? Not playing gambling cards. I usually use ring for a lot of things. Use sin for random number generator in case the internet. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Angus. Not sure what you're saying. Not sure what your ankle is, Angus. All right. Trump is a definite. Only question is elective versus selection. No, of course not. Dice or Sin, how do you play Monopoly? Yeah, exactly. Monopoly. I have Monopoly, the board game up there. I love Monopoly. Monopoly is a fantastic game. If you play by the rules, if you have $500 on free parking for everyone that lands on free parking, you're breaking the rules of Monopoly and it will not work. If you land on property, they have to pay the full rent. No deals. No, you get to pass by once on Boardwalk and next time you can pay. No, it's not how you play Monopoly. You have to play by Monopoly, and then the game will be over in 90 minutes. If you make up rules, that game will last forever. Forever and forever. Let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. I voted for Nikki Haley. She dropped out. Yeah, it's interesting that she dropped out. I think she was getting slaughtered by Trump. Don't have a total understanding of the landscape of the Rapture, impact after the Rapture, the impact on technology and elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a whole different world when we're out of here. It just is. Like, we're out of here. The Antichrist is left to explain why we're not here. And if you picture drones outside and robots and all kinds of stuff going on, and we're not here, man, people are just going to be ransacking homes like crazy, especially if you have a home that's vacant. It's going to be a mess, and he's going to have to come in and clean it up. And people will look to him if they see a strong leader. If there's a weak leader, they won't respect him. But if they see a strong leader, they will fall in line. Made the live stream. Head body. Yep, we're just about to wrap it up too. I'll be here for a little bit. We got to go. We have to go to a friend's house. Nikki was only in a race to take votes from Trump. She does what the WEF tells her to. Yeah, it seems kind of suspicious, doesn't it? Feels a little bit suspicious. Total Recall. Yeah, I've seen that movie. Are you talking about the first one or the remake of Total Recall? I haven't seen the remake, but the first one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, definitely. Some sort of false flag before the elections. Yeah, that's what I feel too. Something. If Trump gets elected, he will surge as president during the first half of the tribulation. His true colors will show. I think so. Like I said, I have all his books. He used to be a celebrity. Everybody used to. I didn't just go and pick up these books. I've had these books for a while. He used to be on Celebrity Apprentice. He created that whole series. I think it was on NBC or ABC. He was the talk of the town. I'm telling you. Everybody was giving him money. Governors, governments. He was making deals all over the world. He could do nothing wrong. He built a large part of New York. Hotels, all kinds of stuff. Brought things back to life. And as soon as he became president, a lot of people turned on him. And all of a sudden people come at me and they're like, how could you support Trump? I'm like, I'm not an American. I don't vote for anyone in the United States. Wow. And they just lose their mind. Like, I can't believe it. And then if you say something like about Trudeau, you're like, so what about Trudeau handing out this 650 million? They go quiet. But they're very bold and boastful about Trump, going against Trump. And they're like, yeah, he's the Antichrist and all this kind of stuff. And how can you support the Antichrist? I'm like, okay, when have I supported the Antichrist? Well, you have all his books. Okay, so if I buy books, I'm now supporting. If I read, like, I have lots of books. Malcolm Gladwell, if he runs for president, does that mean he's the Antichrist now? Elon Musk, maybe the false prophet, maybe you have an argument there. But I have Elon Musk's books as well, his biographies. And I'm telling you, that cat is so weird. I'm telling you. You could build a strong case for him either being the false prophet or the Antichrist. you just read his autobiography. It's crazy how infatuated he is with artificial intelligence and wanting to go to Mars. He doesn't want anything to do with Earth. He won't send himself to Mars, but he wants to send everybody else. It's almost like, I think it was it Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Was that where they built 3 ships? They sent out the scientists, the politicians, and then someone else. Forget what it was. But the politicians, I think, and the scientists left, and then the one ship that stayed behind was the whole plan, was to send them. So I say send Elon. He can go to Mars if he wants and live underground for a couple 100 years. Go ahead. Let me know how it works for you and your family. Send me a report. Send me an email. Probably take like 100,000 years to get here, but hey, go ahead. Knock yourself out. All right. Yeah, I don't have an high IQ, so I don't know. That's good. That's good you have a high IQ. I don't. All right. All right. So I am going to wrap this up. Hope you guys had fun today. I know it was just a short time, hour and 15 minutes, but that was interesting. I just finished watching this interview, and I would encourage you to go watch it. It's like an hour long. Check it out. I think it's an hour. Is it an hour? Is it an hour? Yeah, it's 50 minutes. 50 minutes of your time. Go check it out. Let me know your thoughts next time I jump on a live call with you guys. Otherwise, have a fantastic weekend. Hang out with your family. Chill with your family. Read your Bible this weekend. Dive into it. Study hard. Study to show yourself approved. And we'll see you again. Thanks again, everyone. See you later.